starting the part 2 of the video on law and practice of law of treaties. Now, have there been some disputes or is there some case law to properly understand this law with regard to some controversial cases that bring out the aspects of this law?
Yeah, definitely. Therefore, what I was proposing for today's lecture was law and practice of treaties.
Yes.
So that brings to this part that what are the actual disputes which might have occurred, and those disputes would have been resolved through the use of treaties. So there are a lot of such examples. And I recall the example of Anglo-Iranian Oil Company case, which is very old. And this is interesting also that, there was a time in 50s when after the Second World War, many new countries, they had become independent. And although Iran had become independent a little bit before the Second World War, but there was a person who was trying to nationalize the oil companies, which were earlier, they were all foreign companies. So one of the company was Anglo-Iranian Oil Company. So that was also nationalized by the then Iranian government.
That is one case that is taught.
Yes.
Can you name some other cases?
Apart from this,
which the students, teachers must remember?
Yes, definitely there are some 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cases which must be taught to the students to tell them that what are the different aspects of treaties. And one of the aspects which is very important is that can a treaty be made orally? Because there has been several examples when United States that was being annexed by many white people. So that was on the basis of oral exchange or agreements which were made with the native tribes. So today we should not have such situations. Therefore, nowadays even Vienna Convention says that it should be in written form.
Okay.
So on that there is a case, Eastern Greenland case. So that Eastern Greenland case, that has to be also referred. Apart from that, there is also an issue of making reservations to treaties.
Okay.
So if a country, because there can be several examples of treaties. Yes. One kind of treaty may be multilateral, where there are many countries which are part to it. So in that case, suppose if one country wants to make a reservation.
Okay.
Now, this is also allowed. So on that, there has been a very important case which is decided by ICJ. The name of the case is the Advisory Opinion of International Court of Justice on Genocide Convention.
Genocide Convention.
Genocide Convention. Opinion. Yes.
Okay.
So that has to be referred on the point of
third case.
Reservation.
Yes.
And thereafter, we should also refer to some other cases. For example, we take the example of our own country.
Yes.
We should refer Berubari Union number 1.
Berubari, yes.
There also the whole agreement between India and Pakistan, and what are the executive powers of the government, and whether treaty can be made by the government of India or not. And even more than that, whether any portion of our territory can be ceded to some other country or not.
By way of a territory.
Yes.
Treaty.
By way of treaty.
Yes.
So this case is also important. I can also recall the recent case of Puttaswamy.
Okay.
Where in Puttaswamy judgment, this is very long judgment, but in that judgment also, there has been reference to treaties by the Supreme Court of India.
Okay.
So I remember that ICCPR was referred to in this Puttaswamy judgment.
There is ample case law.
There are many cases.
I would also be happy to get your reaction that while teaching, say in a place like Delhi or other major towns, what can be the faculty or the experts who can be called as guest faculty for 1 or 2 lectures on a specialized particular subjects relating to this course?
Yes, so always there should be a combination of not only scholars but also practitioners.
Okay.
So for that purpose, apart from the scholars who are already teaching, so there we should have some kind of guest faculties in this course, for this course also, for like persons who are already there in the Ministry of External Affairs, and particularly the Legal and Treaty Division. So they can be the guest faculty here.
Okay.
And apart from that, ambassadors,
Okay.
because they have to be there. Diplomats.
Yes.
So like for example, India's envoy,
Okay.
permanent envoy to the United Nations.
Okay.
So whoever is the envoy there, so that person would be having the responsibility to draft the treaty, and suppose if that is signed, then if the government says that okay, no, it should be subject to ratification, then the envoy has all
process of
the whole process. Yes.
Okay.
So
they can be.
Yeah.
Now, and connected to with the reference to teaching, what teaching aids, whether films, etc., can be used to supplement a classroom lecture?
Of course. So classroom lecture, apart from that, there are films also in Bollywood also and in Hollywood also, and also on YouTube nowadays.
Okay. Yes.
Very important source to show free things that
Yes.
is, and very useful things.
I would request that if you can give some examples of this, so to your presentation it would be linked in the written portion of the YouTube, so that after listening to Professor Anupam Jha, they can read some useful training aids like films that you have mentioned on YouTube or
yes. So
etc.
there is a.
I would incorporate this. You can send it to me later by email. I'll include this.
Thank you.
I would also like to know your views that the process of confirmation and evaluation assessment is part of teaching. So, what do you find useful that after your lecture, what mode to be adopted to find out whether the class in front of you has really understood what has been taught as part of Law of Treaties?
Yes. So ultimately, the student have to get the benefit whatever is the faculty member teaching. So faculty members should always think always in the back of their mind that the students whom I am going to teach, they must understand. So it's not that a teacher will be telling them very jargonistic language. So that should be there. And once it is done, so suppose if a lecture is of 1 hour, so maybe that student may not be prepared at that moment of time, but then in a week, after a week, suppose if you have covered one topic in a week or half of a topic. So after that, in the second week, you can say some student to present it.
Okay.
So what is your view on it? So you give one particular aspect assignment,
yes.
And then the student will be asked to present it before the whole class. So the basic idea would be that that student who has been given this assignment, he or she will prepare it, and then he or she should have confidence to present it before the whole class.
To explain it.
Yes. And in between, you should also, the faculty member should also allow interjections. So suppose if other student, they have some questions to ask from the presenter, so they can also ask it. So in that way, what will happen that the students will have a lot of attention. So this can be one way of examining.
Yes.
And apart from that, you can sometimes in a month, like what I do, that sometimes I give them 10 questions in a quiz format.
Okay.
So just I will say that I will ask you 10 questions today. Whoever will answer my questions, I will give you some kind of, like I have some prize. So whatever I have, like I have some
incentive.
Pen. Yeah, okay. Pen. I have some. I buy some pen, or sometimes even fruits are there in my pocket. So I just throw at them or give them. So that is also one.
That's very interesting.
Yes.
Very useful. And my last question is that somebody who's keenly interested in this course, then what are the career opportunities for a student?
So basically, the career opportunities are not very much technically related to the treaties, unless and until a person is appointed in the Legal and Treaty Division of the Ministry of External Affairs. But broadly, a person who has got the basic understanding of treaty laws as well as some other basic elements of international law, then there are many international organizations.
Okay.
So in Delhi or in all over the capitals of our country, the state capitals of our country. So we have some organizations which have their presence, international organizations. they have their presence in those parts also. And in Delhi, we have a lot of embassies, we have a lot of international organizations who are having their offices. So they also prefer a student who has read
Familiar with the
international law and treaties. So because they have to, sometimes they will tell them that, can you draft a agreement with the other country or not? So that can be
useful.
That can be useful. So
Thank you very much, Professor Jha, and your lecture has been very useful. And I would like to thank and compliment you.
thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Bye bye.